So I'm Secretary General of WAITRO, and I'll explain what that is when I get to my presentation. I was just asked to give some introductory remarks first. So good morning. Through its member organizations, WAITRO can drive innovative solutions that can be tailored to a region's unique energy challenges. It's broad, strong membership, particularly in Africa. Using that, we can nucleate initiatives that catalyze local capacity building and stimulate energy research and strengthen regional partnerships. We can empower the continent and others to leapfrog traditional energy systems and make more sustainable and indeed more inclusive energy pathways for the future. Now, we started the WAITRO working groups 3 or 4 years ago, and they were started with the philosophy that WAITRO members should have something to say in policy terms about how best to advance the SDGs. And also that my job in the Secretariat, and indeed the Executive Board, should partly be to advocate for what those members say. That's what the working groups are about. And there's enormous value in the WAITRO global innovation family, as we call it, and its consultative status with the UN agencies in advocating, for example, for targeted national funding in areas of technology relevant to both the SDGs and the WAITRO members could be enormously valuable. So let's start with WAITRO's mission statement. And it's simple. It's to foster innovation on a global scale and drive sustainable development. And I like to focus on these two words, empowering and facilitating for our members. Our members are organizations. The empowering is by organizing things like capacity development workshops to help our members all come up to the same level and learn from one another to be the best research organizations that they can possibly be. And then the facilitating collaboration is where WAITRO, I believe, works best, when it works best as a network that connects across borders, not just of nations, but also of scientific and technical disciplines, and most importantly, and most difficultly, across cultures. WAITRO is a meeting point where cultures can come together and understand one another's needs and one another's limitations and learn to work together to solve problems in sustainability. So if you're wondering about the acronym and you don't know, WAITRO is the World Association of Industrial and Technological Research Organizations. It's an independent nonprofit, and it was founded by UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and has been continuously operating since 1970. So we're 55 years old this year. We've grown to more than 180 members, over 80 countries. And remember, each of those members is itself an organization. So at a rough estimate, we have about 100,000 individuals in the WAITRO network. And the Secretariat has been located here at JITRI in Nanjing, China, since 2019. In fact, for the first 4 years, it was a partnership between JITRI and Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in Germany. And that led me to cooperate with one of my great mentors, Dr. Eckhard Beerdumpfel, who was the Secretary General for the first 4 years of the collaboration. And he really taught me what I know about WAITRO, and it was a very steep learning curve. The important thing about WAITRO, again, is its members are research organizations. They're not countries and they're not individuals. That nations infrastructure where countries join the UN. Countries, and we're all very much aware of that these days, countries are very good at finding reasons to disagree with one another. And it often leads to stalemate within the UN system. And that leads me, I think, to what the WAITRO focus is. I don't want to spend 25 minutes telling you about the history of WAITRO, because you can go look it up if you're interested. It's all online. I thought it was more important to talk about where our focus should be in the next few years. And that's really encapsulated by this poster. Now, I'm sorry to say that if you didn't attend this, you've missed it because it was last year. But we'll have another one in a couple of years. And the important thing here is the title of the WAITRO Summit in 2024, From Innovation to Impact. How do we take all the wonderful innovation that's going on in every WAITRO member that I've ever visited around the world and turn it into real impact? Now, I believe I started off as a bench scientist, by the way. I have research publications, a lot of patents, and I've sort of accidentally wandered into international cooperation and management. But I have experience with commercializing a couple of research technologies. And if you're really going to have impact, you wind up having to sell something by now. That's the importance of a market like the Chinese market and the importance of global cooperation in sustainable technology development, because your local market might not be able to support the innovation. but a different market elsewhere on the planet might be more appropriate. And it's not just about China, it's about connecting the world together for innovation to solve the sustainability problem. That's the issue of market. And if you remember, the second most reason for failure was money. Nobody has enough money. We used to send around surveys for what people were interested in terms of capacity development in WAITRO. And the number one feature that always came back was what I came to call the F word in the end. Everybody wanted to look at the F word, that's funding. If you look at the UN data for funding, the UN defines a funding gap between what we're currently investing in just environmental and social issues and what's actually needed to solve some of these problems. That funding gap right now, depending on what UN agency you listen to, is anywhere from $2.5 trillion, which is the number I picked here, up to $4 trillion a year that's missing from global investing in sustainable technology. This is where the funding gap is. Now, what can WAITRO do about that? We don't just need innovation in technology to fill this gap. $4 trillion is not the sort of money that you find down the back of a couch when you're cleaning on a Saturday afternoon, right? This is serious funding and move it into impact. We hope in the future that we're going to develop this into a new WAITRO product, which is going to be a project advancement facility. And I hope a lot of that will be useful to our members in sub-Saharan and indeed North Africa. If you look at the entire African continent, we actually have 57 members in Africa. That's one of the biggest groups, although Asia is growing quickly, I have to say. And I hope previously I convinced you of the importance of cooperating with the Chinese market if you really want to introduce sustainable technology now. But if you look at the future, in another 25 years, this is population projection out to 2050. And that's Africa and that's China. The market for sustainability right now might be in China, and I hope you can cooperate with us here. In 25 years, that market is going to be in Africa. Now, this isn't a fair comparison, of course, because China is a single, very, very coordinated country. Africa is a continent with a large number of countries, and they don't work closely enough together. I wish I'd see them working. I was very surprised when I went there a few years ago to find that most African countries. I hope we'll see Africa pull together. And I know where the fault in that lies. You can probably blame the British and the French, but guys, they've been gone for 60 to 80 years now. So I hope this sort of event will help the African continent try to pull together with its enormous potential for innovation and its enormous future market for connecting these innovations to impact. So for that, I'm more or less on time, and I'll just finish with some of our WAITRO online channels. If you're not a WAITRO member, or if your organization isn't a WAITRO member, I'd encourage you to look into joining. And if you are a WAITRO member, get in contact with the Secretariat here at JITRI and let them know what you need and how you want to work and how you want to use WAITRO.